been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
It's the Kip and Dave Show.
No excitement.
Are you ready?
22. We're doing it one more time. We're going to do another one. We're going to do this right this time.
Wicka.
Check. I'm Smeatlish.
Camera adds 27 pounds. It just seems like a
I know.
abrupt it's just
kind of, yeah.
This is Dave.
And Kip.
Come check us out. This is Kip.
And Dave.
And I got it wrong again. And we're going to have to do this again because we got a different trail. Until then, this is Dave.
And Kip.
Come check us out. Come check us out.
Yeah.
Wicka.
I think that's good.
Just pick one. God, I hate the ending. There's no way to end this.
Just say, come see us. Just come see us. And just come see us.
So.
Come see us at the two locations.
God, it just seems so hard.
Oh, howdy. Delmar Hogwallop here, coming to you from outside Mildred's Bait Shop and Lingerie. Want to appreciate you all coming, giving a look-see in on the Kicker Unmasked show. Those folks at Kicker, salt of the earth, make some of the finest gear ever tickle your ear. So, mighty fine of you to come take some time off and check them out. And remember, whether you're looking for night crawlers or nighties, Mildred's is your place. So once again, hey, son, put down that armadillo and get some pants on. Oh, my Lord, kids.
Music is my passion, my livelihood, and it's in my DNA. My pals at Kicker Marine Audio gave me a chance to take the music, what I love and listen to, at home, on stage, and in the car, onto the water. Hi, this is Jason Bonham, and I want to say a big thank you to my friends at Kicker Audio for inspiring the songs and the stories behind the music that inspires America. Go overboard!
The Kicker Quad Box is the most insane, ground-pounding, bass head-loving, preloaded subwoofer enclosure we have ever offered. It consists of 4 L7R 12-inch subwoofers. It has a total power handling of 2,400 watts RMS, and it's tuned at an amazing 31 hertz. Here to tell us more about it is Kicker's very own Jeremy Brown.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Brown. I've been with Kicker for 22 years. I work in the research and development department. In the early 2000s, I would run the Gates Bronco at shows like Daytona. We would do hair tricks, 48 10-inch subwoofers with 48 1,000 watt amplifiers. Really big build back in that day. We were able to develop some high output enclosures that were up above the 170 dB mark. We set a few world records with some of those enclosure designs and our woofers. We learned a lot about high output enclosure designs during that time, and we've been able to bring that to our product lines today. Within the last year, we introduced a new subwoofer enclosure with 4 L7 R12s that we call the Quad Box. Our Quad Box is built out of 3/4 inch birch. It's got a 1.5 inch baffle and a 1.5 inch bottom. We also use window frame bracing along with corner bracing to make the enclosure more rigid. We use a flared port to reduce port noise and increase port surface area. This type of vent design helps maximize output. We use the L7 R 12-inch subwoofers because this allows you to use one KXA 2400.1 amplifier, and you still get big bass with fewer upgrades to your charging system. The KICKER Quad Box is the bass head starter kit, and if you're worried, it plays way below 40 hertz.
Mic check. Mic check from Kip. 1, 2, 3. The mic check good? Thanks, sir.
Do not attempt to adjust this transmission. We have assumed control.
The year is 1980. Music fights for its very survival in an acoustically desolate wasteland man calls automobile. Enter Steve Irby, a man whose love of music helped end Discourage forever and forge a path for modern car audio to follow. A humble musician with a passion for quality sound, Mr. Irby is a man who feels it is his destiny to provide a sanctuary for mobile audio. Welcome. Join us this evening as we venture back to the very night a young Steve Irby gains his inspiration to create the legacy we know today as KICKER Performance Audio. Though he does not realize it now, by this time tomorrow, Mr. Irby will have completed blueprints for the original KICKER and champion the war against mobile audio inequality. Tonight, Mr. Irby's prayers will be answered as he begins his quest into the Q Zone. KICKER L7 QB8. With roots dating back to KICKER's inception, Mr. Irby and his team of engineers have achieved an unrivaled level of design and functionality. With extraordinary bass and a minimal footprint, the L7 QB8 utilizes a seamless 1/4 inch extruded aluminum housing, allowing optimal internal air volume for the subwoofer. This exclusive design provides exceptional strength and stability. Like the original KICKER, the L7 QB8 incorporates a unique passive radiator to minimize required airspace while optimizing the efficiency and frequency response of the subwoofer. Opposite the passive radiator, the L7 QB8 is equipped with the all-new 8-inch Ls7 Square Subwoofer. The 2016 L7 features an aluminum basket for exceptional strength and thinned aluminum heat sinks for efficient heat dissipation. KICKER's blue lace spider, solo cone 360-degree back bracing, and a laser-etched cone brace combine as a single ultra-rigid unit. The result is increased clarity, higher volume, and added reliability. The square cone features over 20% more surface area than round subwoofers. It's attached to a Santoprene surround, then stitched to the cone for long life and durability. This surround features KICKER's patented ribbed corners, which fully dictates cone motion and extends surround life.
At the base of the unit, a pair of custom-formed flanges integrate seamlessly with an extremely low-profile mounting system, consisting simply of a mounting plate and bar. Once installed, the overall height of the enclosure is only 9.5 inches. This profile is small enough to work perfectly in countless trucks, sedans, and SUVs. Once again, KICKER sets a new standard with the groundbreaking design and unparalleled performance of the all-new L7 QB8.
This is where KICKER started, right here in this garage right back here. It was a great place, but just a little bit small. And after about 6 months, actually, we got kicked out of here. My wife said there's entirely too much sawdust seeping into the house from the garage. But this was the beginning right here in the garage on 1412 Eastern Street in this little house. Okay, here we are at KICKER location number 2 down on South Main Street in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And this is the little house that we moved into after we got kicked out of the garage. Here we are at KICKER location number 3. We spent about 7 or 8 years in this place. We moved from the little house right over here into the Quonset when we ran out of space. We had about 35 employees. Here we are, KICKER location number 4. This is up on top of a hill. It's a little bit windy here. But we spent the years from 1989 until about 2006 here, until we moved into our new facility.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. It's 7:30 Central Time, the time we kick everything off here live. We had a wonderful evening here. Had a little rain in the area yesterday. It's looking like it might be raining the rest of the week. Saw some really cool photos. I should have had Ernie grab some of those. Those have been cool to show on the show. It's about some really bad weather out there. Hey, Ernie, if you get a chance, pull up some of those cool photos that you had on the weather. I think people out there would love to see those. But anyhow, welcome to the show. If this is your first time here, welcome. We love to have you join us. If it's your second or third, or this could be your 28th time to actually tune into an episode of Unmasked, if you count the first one from SEMA. Thanks for coming back. We certainly hope you get some great information from the show. We cover lots of different topics, and tonight we're going to do what we call a little bit of housekeeping here in the beginning, touch on a few things. We're going to bring a special guest on board, introduce him, and then we'll get to the hot topic of the night, which is, this is actually part 2 of what we started off called the Science of Wire show. And tonight we've got a demo station set up, and we're going to do the same demos you may have saw on the show 2 weeks prior. And we've got it set up with some 1-aught CCA and some 1-aught oxygen-free copper. We're going to do that demo and get it out of the way. If we have time, depending on how the show runs, we may even undo that demo and then go back and even do the 4-gauge test again. I noticed in the feed here some people are asking what we're going to do tonight. In case you missed it, there's actually, you can go back into our YouTube channel, and there all the Unmasked Live weekly videos are in there. We did the Science of Wire Part 1, and that's where we actually did the test with 8-gauge wire, and that was 100% OFC versus CCA wire. And then we also did a test with 4-gauge, 100% copper versus CCA wire as well. And so those demos are out there. They're available. You can go check them out. They're fantastic. We're going to do 1-aught tonight. And like I said, if we have time, we'll try to get 4-gauge back in tonight, because it seems like a lot of people may have not seen that first show. I'm seeing a lot of questions about that in the feed. So speaking of questions and the feed, first thing, guys, if you like the content, you don't have to do it right now, but man, on your way out the door tonight when we close the show down, if anything we're doing here on the show is something that you like and appreciate and you're enjoying the content, if you could just smash that thumbs up button on the way out, we'd sure appreciate that. It's a way that we can measure whether we're doing good or we're not doing good. Are you liking the content? Do you like to see something different? Did this show just not trip your trigger? Whatever it takes, just smash that button and let us know. And if you have any ideas for future shows, future topics you'd like to talk about, or feedback from this show, you can always reach out to us at social@kicker.com. That gets you straight into Bill Frog's inbox, and we take all that information in. We love to see it. But just on your way out tonight, if you can, man, just smash that like button. Let us know what you think about the content. As always tonight, we got Tim behind camera. He and I are going to be doing a little bit of sneaker net here a little bit later in the show. We got to grab my laptop. He's going to grab. We're going to head over to the lab where we have the demo set up. So that'll be pretty fun, but Tim's ready for that. Bill's back with us tonight. Jeremy Wynn's back with us tonight. Ernie's behind there. He's running switching a lot of duty back there. So we're back to full staff tonight. So it's great to have everyone back. Hey, Ernie, give us a little shot back there behind stage. Let everybody see who's back here if you can. We got, like I said, we got Bill back. We got Jeremy back. And of course, there's Ernie giving us a big wave over there. So it's great to have everyone back in the house. Tonight, you know, we always talk about we have dinner together as a team. It's kind of our pre-show thing that we do. We have a meal together and we kind of talk about what we're going to do during the show. And tonight, 5 Guys. If you got 5 Guys in your area, you definitely need to hit them up. Man, they make some fantastic burgers, and their fries, they give you enough fries for 4 people out of one serving. I get a small, and it's way more than I need. So great meal tonight. Thank you, Mr. Irby, for letting us have a little bit of meal time together on Kicker. We certainly appreciate that. Tonight's drawing, if you haven't already seen it scrolling across the bottom of the screen, tonight's drawing is going to be giving away for first place another wire kit. It's very similar to what we did in the show previously. And full spec 2, let me look over to my notes, make sure, I'm sure Bill's already got it running on the screen. You know, normally, you guys have even said it's like, Kip acts like he doesn't know what prizes we're giving away. And for the longest time, I didn't, because I didn't know you guys were seeing this when you went to enter the contest. But yet again tonight, we're going to do EB300s, the Kicker koozies, and the Unmasked Live t-shirt. That's going to be for 3rd place and 2nd place. And then grand prize, you're going to get the koozies. You're going to get one of the black limited edition Kicker t-shirts. We still have some of those left. And as long as we've got those, we're going to keep giving those away as the 1st place prize. And then any Kicker wire kit. So any wire kit, whether it's the Marine kit, whether it's a value kit, whether it's a PKD1, PKD4, whatever you need to get your ride hooked up, that's going to be for the first prize winner. You're going to be able to choose from any Kicker wire kit. So that's a fantastic prize. Full spec 2, kicker.fun. So just go to www.kicker.fun. /full spec 2. That gets you in the drawing tonight. We roll that link across the bottom of the screen during the pre-roll of the show. You can enter anytime starting at 7:15. We close that contest right at 8:30. And so at 8:30, we'll wrap that up. We'll draw the winners and we announce them before we even end the show. It's really one of those ways that we say thanks for tuning in. Hope you like the content. Hope you got some good things about it. And these are just some perks and prizes that you can only get if you're tuned into watching Kicker Unmasked Live weekly. Along with that, if you were tuned in 2 weeks ago, man, my date's wrong. Man, time flies when you're having fun. We actually did a show. We had Jim Skaggs from MTI Acoustics join us, and we went over the full line of MTI acoustic enclosures that they make for underseat of trucks. And Jim and the guys over there at MTI were very gracious. They agreed that we're going to give away a Stage 3 kit with a pair of L7 woofers on board. And so that drawing is it's a month-long contest. If you have not entered that contest yet, please go check that out. Bill, if you've got that as a link, would you mind scrolling that across the bottom of the screen real quick? I've got it here on a paper. It's the MTI Acoustic Contest. If you've seen any of the stuff up on social, you've probably seen something like this. And that link to that contest is also kicker.fun, and then it's /truckbass. TRUCKBASS. That is a fantastic prize package. We sincerely thank MTI Acoustics for going in with us on that. It's good. Man, somebody out there is going to win this, and you're going to have a great time. Oh, you got them? Fantastic. Thanks. So I want to show this because it's some of the most amazing pictures that I've seen in a long time. And so, Ernie, when you get a chance, bring these up. We were actually talking about the weather that's been down around Lake Charles and other parts of the country. They've had some significant hail and tornadoes. Where's this one from, Ernie? Okay, so Ernie says this one's around Sterling, Texas. Maybe you heard it through the microphone he's running in, but this picture is just, I mean, it's Mother Nature in full effect, but is that not just a gorgeous picture? I mean, it's got the black back there, the sun shining through, the orange, that yellow at the top. This is just a fantastic picture. Ernie, you got any more of them back there? I know you showed me several. Now this was a tornado, wasn't it? So this was actually a tornado. It's kind of crazy to talk about something being beautiful when it's as destructive as something like a tornado or hail can be. But man, look at this. This is just Mother Nature in full effect. And these are just gorgeous photos. Of course, it's Oklahoma. We're right in the middle of we call Tornado Alley, and we get our fair share of pretty bad weather here. This week's been up and down. We have had a lot of water here, a lot of rain here. Hopefully we won't see any bad weather, but those are some pictures that Ernie showed me. Ernie, thank you for getting those up. I appreciate it. We should have talked about that earlier, but thanks for pulling those that fast. So that's just some of the beauty of Mother Nature. I just felt like showing that tonight. Thanks, Ernie. I appreciate doing that. So the drawing, also don't forget, we always remind everyone, if you happen to be tuning in from north of the border up in Canada, besides fantastic cold beverages, you are now also qualified to enter any of the Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly contests. Our distributor up in Canada, Gemsen, Gemsen. So if you're from Canada and you're looking to find anything about Kicker gear, where you can go purchase it, any questions, reach out to Gemsen, Gemsen. Find them with a Google search. They are a distributor in Canada. And with their help, we've actually brought Canada into the fold, and we are now able to include you guys in the drawing that we do every night. And we've actually had a Canadian winner, so that's a really cool thing. So we're always looking for new ways to add other countries. You never know who will be able to add to the mix next, but right now, Canada, you are in both those drawings, so be sure that you can enter that, or you go and enter it because you can. And I think that's really kind of all the housekeeping I've got for tonight, and it's kind of a light list, but I want to look over here at the, good evening, Kip. Hey, what's going on, Saber? Good evening to you as well. Doesn't get much further than before, blah, 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 blah. Good evening, Kip. Good to see you as well. I'm just looking for more comments here. He say Jensen? No, here we go. Hey, Thomas, man. Thank you, sir. I'm going to bring that one up. Jemsen. Where'd he go there? Melt the... Thomas, we're going to run some current through the wire. We don't want to melt it, but you never know what's going to happen. Ernie and I did some testing earlier. We'll see how that's going to happen. But real quick here, this is from Thomas. He wrote it. It's Gemsen, Gemsen. So if you are from Canada or north of the border, Gemsen is the Kicker distributor for Canada. So if you have any questions about Kicker product or where to find a dealer, that's who you want to reach out to. And if you'll just do a search on Google, just type in Gemsen, it'll come right up. I forget the end. It might be just gemsen.ca, but I may have that wrong, so I apologize if I do. Get a fire extinguisher for the, where's that? Oh, sorry, that was my bad. I thought I was trying to hide my comment. Appreciate that. Thank you there, Jeremy. Food, get a fire extinguisher for the for the CCA, you better get a fire extinguisher. We have them here. It's code. Take it easy on me, Kip. It's my first time. Hey, Basehead 30, it's your first time for tuning in. Thanks for joining the show. Man, if you like this stuff, we'd love for you to hit the like button on the way out, subscribe so you get all the notifications. There are random times that we will do just out of the blue Kicker Unmasked videos during the day, during the week, random things. So if you're subscribed to the Kicker YouTube channel and the Facebook, you'll get those notifications. So if you like what you see, we love having you here. Just subscribe to that. Love to have you along for the ride for another show. Ben H., greetings from Moore, Oklahoma. Hey, Ben, you're just down the street about an hour or so. Good to see you. Thanks for joining the show, Ben. Keep them coming, Jeremy. Sandy, Sandy looks like Jeremy tonight. Or does Jeremy look like Sandy? We did go to lunch together. Maybe there was some transfusion that happened and we don't know about it. I don't know. Did they share a drink? I'm not sure. Good to see you, Deviant. Thanks for tuning in. How's Beardy doing? Is he liking his t-shirt? Let us know in the comments. Hey, Bobby, what's going on? Good to see you tonight, Bobby B. Thank you for tuning in. Just looking through the keep them coming. Evening, Kip. Ready to make some 1-aught fusible links? Wade Hensley. Well, we have got enough power that we could turn 1-aught into a fusible link if we want to, but hopefully we're not going to. The whole purpose of the demo we got tonight is to, show the real world differences between a piece of 1-aught and a typical car installation of CCA and a typical 1-aught in a car with 100% copper. And so hopefully you guys get some great information out of that. Tony! Full tilt boogie is definitely the way I like to go. Thanks for bringing that up. Some other people had in the feed earlier. Appreciate you saying that. It's an old saying. I knew it from I think my grandparents used that on me when I was a kid, but full tilt boogie is definitely the way to go. Someone still comes from, I guess I didn't need it. Bye-bye. Full tilt boogie. Thanks, Tony. Of course, 25 hertz to life. Hey, Kip in the family. Mike, what's going on? It's my friend. Good to see you tuned in tonight. Got to put this one up, 25 hertz to life. We told you it's rigged. It's always rigged, especially if it's for you or Deviant. I guarantee it's rigged. So, that's funny. Kip and Fane saying looks like Jeremy. Looking for some more comments here, guys. Kip, back. Okay, well, here, I don't know. Let's put this one up. Kip, this is from Jerome. Jerome, hey, Kip, this is Jerome. I'm back for more live entertainment. Well, Jerome, hopefully you get something good out of the show tonight. We're just here to talk product, talk about all the cool things that center around car audio, a lot of the special guests. And speaking of special guests, we do have a special one who's joined us tonight, and we'll get to him in just a second. So just hang in there. We got a special guest join us tonight. Tomcat, has there been any thought about a 6 3/4 L7? How cool would that be? Jeremy, you're reading my mind. I saw that comment earlier, and I wanted to bring it up. We don't do a 6 3/4 L7 yet. Never know. Never know. Stay tuned. I'm waiting for Well, Andy, if you're paying attention, your wish just came true. That's funny. Oh, here we go. I'm going to bring this one up. You didn't see it. So it's, and man, anybody's name out there, if I butcher your name, I certainly apologize, but it looks like Yannick Polasic. Hopefully I got that right. It says hello from Canada. Yannick, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you joining the show, man. Appreciate it. Of course, Jeff, wink, wink. Yeah, you never know. A little bit of wink. You never know what I'm going to tell you guys. That's cool. Oh, wait, no hi-fi. Oh, wait, let's bring this one up. Oh, wait, no hi-fi tonight at all? Birthday party? Yeah, Hi-Fi had a previous commitment that he had to, unfortunately, he was going to be on the show, but he had to bow out. Hi-Fi will be back on a future show. Don't you worry about it, guys. He will definitely be joining us, but yeah, he had to get out of here tonight, so we're letting him have the night off. He brags about it all the time on his other shows that he does. That he's the official, unofficial co-host for the show, but yet he's not here tonight, so I don't know what's up with that. Hey, from Fort Walton Beach, Florida, what's up, Keith Harris? Thank you for tuning in, sir. Jeff Kassler, good evening from Arizona. Beating, NCP 93, Dookie Dave installation shout out. Shout out to you, Dookie Dave. Can I say that on camera? I just did. Justin Binnicker. Hey, Kip. Hey, Justin. How you doing this evening? Thanks for tuning in, man. We sure appreciate you joining us tonight. Samuel Seal. Kip's favorite chip brand are Kipperitos. Okay. That's funny, and I like that. But just so you know, I think Derrick and Robert are the guys who kind of started this. Is sometimes I have words that come out of my mouth, and they call them Kip-isms. And for the last few times, because I'm an enthusiast too, so I watch a lot of these other shows that are out there, whether it's Sound Advice or Reverse Polarity or 12-Volt Talk. I mean, there's a lot of other ones out there I watch. DIY Audio Guy, Toids Audio. I watch a lot of this content. And behind the scenes, people have started saying and creating Kip-isms. So apparently that's one for tonight is I like Kipperitos. So good for that one. If you got one you'd like to throw in the comment feed, man, I enjoy a good laugh. If you got a good Kip-ism, throw it on there. We'd love to see it. Thanks for humiliating me there, Jeremy. I appreciate it. Renison, whoa, Cole Mundele. Hopefully I got that right. Colmundale, Renison Colmundale, just finished installing my Comp RT 12-inch and loving it. Thank you, sir. We're glad we're loving that woofer. That's a fantastic sounding driver. Whether you built your own box or you bought one to preload from us, we know those are great sounding speakers. They get the job done. They don't take a lot of space doing it. So thank you for that comment. Enjoy that. If you have any questions, be sure you reach out to us. Thomas Marshall, Hi-Fi is secretly buying up the world's surplus of CCA. Well, after tonight, it won't be worth much, but at least he'll have a lot of it. So that's pretty funny. Thanks, Thomas. Hey, here's a question. I want to get this one. Marcus Nance, does the quality of your cables help with the sound of your system? Marcus, that's a little loaded question. If you look at it from strictly the science standpoint, there's three properties when you look at a piece of wire, and that's whether you're talking an RCA cable, whether you're talking a speaker cable, or whether you're talking a power delivery cable, like your 8 gauge, your 4 gauge, your 1/0, things like that. You've got resistance, you've got inductance, and you've got capacitance. And those are the three characteristics that you can actually scientifically measure and talk about to tell you why one wire may or may not give you better sound, better performance over another wire. Now, the two that they can be effective, but they tend to be more of the audiophile conversation words, would be inductance and capacitance. And basically, if you look at that, inductance is any wire that's twisted around itself or wire that's twisted around itself, that can become an inductor and create inductance, so there's that. And then capacitance is, cables running side by side, and depending on the insulator and what it may or may not hold for a charge or what it does, it can create capacitance issues. So if you have a wire that is giving you inductance, well, an inductor is a low-pass filter, and if you got a wire that's capacitance, that is a high-pass filter. So if you get into the nitty-gritty of wire, can inductance and capacitance play an issue on the signal that you get to your speakers? Absolutely. So inductance and capacitance on your RCA cable, inductance and capacitance on your speaker wire can affect it. Now, is that a big issue? Not really. Does it happen? Is it measurable? Yes. Are there some extreme cases of wire that do a poor job and give you too much capacitance or too much inductance? Yes, and I've seen testing on those type of wires that they can affect your signal. But if I have to be honest with you, the number one thing that you can do when it comes to wiring up your system is always use the right gauge wire to make sure that you're not getting any signal loss, because that's the last of the three components we talked about is resistance. And for example, actually Ernie, since we're on this conversation, if you'll bring up the asset, it's in your folder, it's chart number 1, it's called speaker wire chart. Will you bring that one up for me just a second? I know it'll take you just a second to load it up, but go ahead. But this reads right into it, Marcus. So, speaker wire, and you'll see more examples of this as we show what you lose in power wire, and we do the demo here in a little bit. But this is a chart that shows you what kind of loss you can see through a typical speaker wire and where you can draw the line. So this helps you make an educated decision. So for example, we'll just go down the chart here to 16 gauge speaker wire, because 16 gauge is a very popular size. And as you can see, into a 4-ohm speaker with 11% loss, meaning at the end of that 27 feet of cable, you would lose 11% of your signal, i.e. voltage. And that's about a half a dB drop. Is that audible? Depends on how picky your ear is. Most people really can't hear anything till you get up to about 2 or 2.5 dB. I would say that's probably the average person. Although I am one of those people, I can hear about a dB. Once you get into about a dB of loss, I can tell that this sounds different than that or quieter. I can tell one's louder than the other. And so this chart gives you a great look at that. So if you're going to run your speaker cable 27 feet, which in a car, I don't think you're ever going to get up to 27 feet. But if you did, you would lose about 11% or a half a dB of output from the amplifier through that cable into your speaker. Now, if you didn't want to have any of that loss, obviously if you go up to 14 gauge wire, you can run 43 feet before you get to that same loss. So in a car where you're typically running anywhere from maybe 7 to 15 feet of wire, obviously 14 gauge wire, you're not going to experience any loss problems in that. And then 12 gauge, obviously you can go 69 feet on that before you experience any type of loss. And even though it's 69 feet, it's kind of, I can tell you for me, I just always wire subwoofers up with 12 gauge wire. It's always overkill. You're not running your subwoofer wire 69 feet. I mean, subwoofer wire, you may be running that wire, anywhere from 1 to 7 feet, depending, and if, even inside your cabinet, you don't have that much wire. So 12 gauge is always a safe bet for subwoofers, unless you're running a monster system, and those guys, get into wanting to run 8 gauge or 4 gauge, which even in those cases, I think you're getting into extreme overkill. But that chart, and what we'll do, this was actually asked about on the previous show. I'll get with Bill and we will post these graphs and charts that we're talking about tonight. We'll get those up on social so you guys can come back and look at those. Maybe we'll just post it up on Facebook. You can check them out there. But that helps you decide. So when it comes to does wire, can it affect the quality of your system? Yes. It's capacitance, inductance, and resistance. And the first one you should worry about, which is the most common one, is resistance. Worry about that first. I doubt you're going to run into any, it's called LCR, if you want to know. L for inductance, C for capacitance, and R for resistance. You're going to run into very few LC problems. You're going to run into lots of R problems if you don't use the right size wire. And you can never use too big a wire. It's not like, hey, here's the chart and it says I'm good with 16. Am I going to cause any problems using 14? Not at all. You're always better off to use a wire that is the size you want or slightly bigger. It's when you go the other direction and go smaller that you're going to run into issues. So that's a great question. Thank you for putting that up on the screen, Jeremy. That was fantastic. Living Loud with Andy. The information on this show is awesome. People pay to go to school to learn this stuff. Much appreciated, Kip and the Kicker team. Andy, we're all a bunch of enthusiasts here, honestly, and we just like sharing this information. Sometimes we interface in the outside world and we see a lot of misinformation or disinformation. And what we really want to do is here on the show, when we have those topics, we're not trying to tell you you're wrong. We just want to show you where the misinformation or disinformation is and let you make your own decision. Science is your friend, and that's why we try to base everything on here when we talk about things, especially these wire charts and things we talk about. Somebody might say, I run 12 gauge wire to everything, and it doesn't matter. I can hear a difference. Well, if you think you can hear a difference, I mean, it's not hurting anyone. If you want to run 12 gauge to everything, run 12 gauge to everything. But for people who are looking like, I'm looking to get the best bang for the buck, what do I need to get so I get great performance? That chart I just showed you is a great place to go to help you determine your speaker wire length, because if you don't want any loss at all, you just step up the gauge. But if you're acceptable with a half a dB loss, you're safe at 16. So it's a great chart to look at, and we love sharing that information. Thanks, Andy. You are definitely a good guy to have in the feed. You know your stuff as well. Anything else, Jeremy? Anything else good to... I'm not hearing anything from him. We're good? That's what I need to hear. We're good. So with that said, everyone, we do have a great demo. We'll get two if we can get them rolled in, but we're definitely going to do the one because on the first show, we got the 8 gauge and the 4 gauge demo done, and we didn't get to the 1-aught demo. And of course, everyone loves giving him a hard time, Mr. CCA Hi-Fi Robert Vega. He was supposed to be here tonight, but he couldn't join us. But this is definitely not a slouch. This definitely is in second place. This is definitely someone who's in that same league of fun and knowledge and wanting to share what he knows. And that would be Mr. Derrick Williston from Williston Audio Labs. A lot of you may know him as Big D from Old School Stereo. So with that said, if you don't mind, let's bring him up into the feed. That would be Mr. Derrick Williston. Sir, how are you this evening?
Hey guys, how's it going tonight? Good to see you all.
We are good to see you as well. I'm just turning my volume up here so I can hear you a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm really sad that Rob can't be here tonight, but I'm also pretty excited that I'm here in his place because I was really jealous last time you guys did this test, and I had to be sitting on the side wings, the sidelines. So being out here playing in the game, I'm excited. The other thing that people may not realize is when you guys invite us on, we don't really know exactly what you're going to do. So we're kind of watching it from an enthusiast perspective as well, which is exciting to me because I'm getting to see it just like you guys are getting to see it right here. Kip has got some things planned. I don't know what he's going to do. I just know it's going to be lots of fun.
We hope it's lots of fun. And man, thank you. I know I reached out to you kind of last minute, and you and Robert both are fantastic hosts and guys to have on the show. And of course, I watch as much of your guys' content as I can because I think both of you, either together, independently, do some great, well-produced shows. So thank you for being on here tonight, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Before we break and head over to the labs, I'm just looking at the clock here and watching the time. First thing is let everyone know we're coming up. We got about 6 minutes till 8, so that means you got about 35 minutes to enter tonight's contest. That's kicker.fun/full-spec2. That'll get you in the drawing for tonight where we give away the earbuds, the shirts, the koozies, and of course the grand prize winner gets a wire kit. So you got about 35 minutes to go hit that link. You got plenty of time to do that. Just open up another window if you need to. Go hit that link. Come on back. We definitely want to get you in the contest for tonight. But with that said, it's actually kind of cool that you're on here tonight, Derrick, because real quick, I don't want to go too far into it because we're going to get into fun in the lab, but when we did the first Science of Wire show, it was kind of crazy because you're over in the chat feed and I'm catching it as you're talking about it, and you were over there going like, hey, whoa, the elephant in the room. Did you guys just watch an amplifier do a full output dyno for over 3 minutes?
Yeah, that was impressive. And just for the people in the chat, I did bump up my mic just a little bit, so hopefully I'm coming through a little louder here, but yeah, you guys were testing, current going through the power wire, and you were testing temperature and all that. And I'm sitting there hearing the amplifier make that ticking, creaking sound that I know they make when they reach their kind of maximum. And I'm just cringing, waiting for it to go up in smoke. And it handled it like a boss. I mean, like you said, 3 minutes, nonstop, full tilt boogie. I was impressed.
Full tilt boogie. Yeah, and for you guys, Derrick was so impressed by it, and he and Robert both, that they asked me to join them last week on 12 Volt Talk. And so if you haven't seen that episode of 12 Volt Talk, what episode number would that be if they want to go find it? Do you know off the top of your head, Derrick?
I believe it was 106, but yeah, so just so everybody understands, you see dyno tests all the time, you see audio precision tests all the time. Mainly see the graphs of audio precision. People mainly do dyno tests on YouTube, but you see it ramps up and it gets to a certain level and then the test stops. That is ramping the amplifier up in volume or in level, and it reaches a maximum and then it kind of stops. Well, what Kip was doing, he was leaving it up here the whole time, and honestly, from my experience of what I've seen, a lot of amplifiers are not designed to run at full output for more than just 30 seconds or so. Depending on how the amplifier is built, it's obviously not needed to run a test tone through an amplifier for an extended period of time in most cases. But when you see it and you see an amplifier that can handle that, for me, that's telling me, hey, this thing is overbuilt. It's designed for reliability, and it's been put through a real torture test. So the fact that you guys do this, and this is just kind of your standard, for me it was like an eye-opening experience that everybody needs to know, and it actually changed the way I'm kind of testing things moving forward. I'm going to do the normal standard dyno test, but then after that, I'm going to load it down, and I'm going to let it run, and we're going to see what happens. So just be ready out there, manufacturers. The other ones, it's coming.
Well, here's the good news. Fortunately, if you happen to do that testing with any KICKER products, I know someone who knows someone that we can probably get it repaired for you if it goes up in smoke, because the reality is this type of testing is extremely hard on an amplifier. When you do a full sine sweep or sine wave in there, which we're doing 50 hertz, and you run that up to full output of the amplifier, it's about 60% more current draw on the amplifier than it would normally do in musical situations, even at that full output power level. So when we do full sine wave like this, it is an extremely hard test on an amplifier. And I'll say it now and I'll say it again when we get in the lab. There's a chance we could smoke an amplifier tonight. Don't be surprised, because we know this is a hard test, but we also know how we test our amplifiers and the testing that we put them through and the standards that we have. So we feel pretty comfortable that we can go for a full 3 minutes and not have a problem. But there's always going to be that chance. This is live TV, so who knows what's going to happen? So I'll say it with that. But it is an impressive test, and it was kind of cool on the shows that we're there doing we're talking wire. We just wanted to stress the wire so we could show people the difference between the wires. And Derrick's over there going, whoa, time out. Do you guys see that amplifier running? It went for over 3 minutes. And it was just like, it never hit me until I started. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's okay, yeah. And we just took it for granted.
Yeah, again, I was blown away. And not only that, the fact that it did over 2,500 watts with 4-gauge OFC. You weren't even running the 1-aught. So you really were stressing it to the fact that current was sort of limited a little bit getting to the amplifier. But yeah, it did it and handled it like a boss. Like you said, hey, maybe or maybe not, but you guys test at that level, and that's, for me, that's sort of something that we need to reach for when we're doing tests and we're looking at other products to find out. I don't know what version X amplifier or other brands or whatever. I don't know what their standards are, because in a lot of cases they don't really tell us. They maybe print out a test sheet or something to that effect. But, for me, this is really a durability, reliability thing. And the fact, like we talked about before, a 27-year-old Kicker amp that I used recently on my quad box to do a video, it survived a dyno test, and it survived testing the quad box at like 0.5 ohm. So that just shows the quality of the Kicker product over the years, and knowing that you're spending a little bit more, but you're actually dealing with a product that is built, I won't say the F word, but, tough.
Ernie, while I'm sitting here, if you could bring up slide number 2, it says amp versus length, or amps versus length, it's slide number 2. I want to touch on this, and then I'll tell you one other slide. You're right, Derrick, but the thing and the reason I'm bringing this chart up is tonight's show, what we're doing, just like the previous show before this when we did the wire test, is it's not about the amplifier, although it turned into a whole side conversation about amplifiers at full output. We're just running the amplifier at full output and with a lot of draw so that we can take the wire to its full limits, and we can show you what does this wire offer you or don't offer you versus another wire. And what it really boils down to is it's the age-old conversation that I've watched on the internet for years, and it's copper-covered aluminum, or CCA, versus 100% oxygen-free copper, or just 100% copper. And the long story short is just always buy 100% copper. You're always going to get the best performance out of your amplifier, both power in and to your speakers, if you just use 100% copper. CCA is very appealing because it is easier on your pocketbook. But the problem is you might save a few dollars buying that wire on the front side, but what you end up doing is you end up cheating yourself out of the real performance that any of your product's capable of, because CCA wire, when pushed to the limits, cannot deliver like copper. It just can't. And so, Ernie, if you'll bring up that chart, if you got it there, thank you, sir. Bring that up. So to give you an idea, this chart is kind of and everyone's got a chart like this. I think I pulled this one from 12volt.com to just give them props. But this is basically the recommended length, or the recommended gauge of wire for a particular current draw versus a length in feet. And as you can see, that the far right end of the chart, they've got 19 to 22 feet as kind of their max distance. So to give you guys an idea while we got this chart up, the wire that we're using in all these tests, the one 2 weeks ago and the one tonight, we're using 20 feet of wire. We just kind of picked 20 as a rough number because in some vehicle installations, sometimes you got to go across the firewall to get to the battery, come down the side of the vehicle, and then go back to the other side of the vehicle to get to where you're mounting your amplifier. So 20 feet is a realistic maximum number that we feel that you're going to use in most situations. The only time I think you're going to get into lengths longer than that is probably if you're going into a boat. Now, in a boat, you can get into you can get up into 24 to 28 feet in some cases in a boat, but in a car, we're looking at 20 feet's the max. And we're using the same size wire for the ground return pass. So there's 20 feet of power wire and there's 20 feet of ground wire. In a lot of vehicles today, they're not welded together anymore. They're glued together. All these body panels and stuff are put together with vibration isolating glues and adhesives. So it's very difficult to find at times a good ground path back to the battery alternator of the vehicle. So in a lot of cases, we recommend if you need 1-aught power, just go ahead and run a 1-aught ground at the same time, because it's going to be guaranteed you're going to have a good solid ground, because you can ground right up at that battery or ground right up at the alternator with that. So these demos that we did 2 weeks ago and the one we're going to do tonight, it is 20 feet of power and 20 feet of ground. So you know that. And to give you an idea, and when we get over in the lab, I may have Ernie bring this chart up again. So at this length we're running, we're doing a 1-aught demo tonight. So they're saying at 1-aught, you shouldn't pull more than about 200 to 250 amps through that cable. Keep that number in the back of your head, because we have a clamp amp meter over there, and you're going to go, what? How much are you pulling through that wire? It's going to be a good time. And so with that chart, Ernie, if you could, I would like to show one more before we move to the lab. And it would be, let's go right down to 13. It's the expansion coefficient table, number 13. If you can pull that one up. And the reason I pulled this up, and I've actually got another chart that we can bring up as well if we need to, but this was another topic that was actually brought up by a comment from a viewer on either Facebook or YouTube. And he brought up, he said, all this stuff you're saying is great. He said, did you talk about, how copper and aluminum have different expansion characteristics? I'm like, well, no. I said, I know it, but we didn't bring it up as a topic. So I said, well, we'll touch on it tonight's show real quick. And Bill brought this up and thought it was a good idea. So when you're looking at, aluminum versus copper, just as a material, you're looking at the specific resistance, and this is ohms per circular mil feet. So this is basically the resistance of the wire. You're looking at, copper is about a 10.6 per circular mil foot, and then you're looking at aluminum's 18.5. So there's significantly more resistance in the aluminum wire than there is the copper wire. So understand, when we're talking about these demos, and I told everyone at the last show we did this, and I'm going to say it again tonight, we will not tell you what brand CCA wire we're using because it does not matter. We are using KICKER wire because we're 100% oxygen-free copper, but the CCA wire, we're not going to tell you what it is because it doesn't matter. We're talking about copper wire versus CCA wire. And so the resistance on that, and then Ernie, if you'll flash that chart up just one more time real fast, I want to touch one more subject on that chart besides the resistance. And that is, wrong chart, go to 13. He's going to get here in just a second. There he goes. Is the coefficient of expansion. And basically what the coefficient of expansion is at any starting point, as you go 1 degree above that starting point in temperature, a material will expand a certain amount. All materials. That's like if you're doing plumbing in your house, you have to leave an expansion loop because the piping itself is going to expand and contract as it gets hot or cold. Well, speaker wire does the same thing, power wire does the same thing, and you can see that the expansion, you're looking at copper is about a 16.6 on the coefficient scale, and aluminum's a 23. It takes about 40%, you got to leave 40% more area for aluminum to expand into than you have to leave for copper. And what happens because aluminum can expand and contract that much is, for better or for worse, I'm old enough to remember back in the 70s and 80s when there were, raw materials, precious metals like copper were, were running out, and they think price was going through the roof, and they went to aluminum wiring in houses. And they real quickly learned a lot that they didn't know, because what was happening is that aluminum wiring in homes, when they were putting that wire around the light switch receptacles or the light switches or the receptacles, the screws that hold that down, the aluminum would get hot, as all wire does when you pull current through it, and it would expand, and it would actually work that screw loose, and as it was working the screw loose, then you get into an arc spark condition, and it actually was causing fires. And so in today's world, you can use aluminum. You have to use larger aluminum gauge than you do for copper, but you have to use outlets and receptacles that are actually rated for aluminum. They use a special metal on the screw that'll handle that expansion contraction. And the other thing you got to worry about with aluminum is oxidation. And in a lot of homes, they'll use 3/0 and 4/0 big aluminum wire to do your main run to your house, which is great. That's oversized. You can do that, but they have to put a deoxid or an oxidation preventer on the end before they tighten it down, because one of the things about aluminum is that it oxidizes, and aluminum oxide is actually a resistor, or it's a insulator. A current doesn't flow through aluminum oxide. So why are you using CCA coil on the Solo X then? It's a good question, Joseph. The whole conversation about wire is you have to pick the right material for your application. Tonight we're really focused on power wire and what's going to be the best to get to the amount of current you need to go back. At the end of this conversation, we'll say it again. You can use CCA wire if you choose to, but understand you have to go up at least a gauge size or two to safely pull the same amount of current through CCA as you do through copper. When it comes to speaker design, there's a lot of people that will use aluminum or even CCA wire in voice coils, and the reason that you'll do that in the design of the speaker, it's to save weight. And so as long as you're using a gauge of wire that'll handle the amount of current you've designed the speaker for properly, and that's the key, are you using the right size to handle the amount of current you're running through there safely, you can use an aluminum or a CCA wire in speaker design to save weight. If you save weight in a speaker design, that makes the speaker more efficient or sensitive, so it takes less power to drive that whole structure. It's just about saving weight when it comes to speaker design. Can you use aluminum? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to design for it. The big thing in today's world that we're talking about is a lot of people out there saying, oh, I just buy 4-gauge CCA and it's as good as 4-gauge copper and I just saved a whole bunch of money. Well, no, it's not. And that's what the demo in the first show showed you, is that wire has a limitation, and if you want to use it, you can, but you're going to have to run 2.5 times its size or run another length of it along with it, and now you haven't saved really weight or size. Now you got to deal with 2 wires instead of 1 wire when copper do the whole job efficiently just as it is. So understand, it's about materials and choosing and designing the right material for the job. Hopefully that makes sense. So
yeah, Kip, there's something else really quick too. You have to be careful if you're comparing different brands. Like if you go onto a site like Amazon or another site and you're looking at price and trying to figure out, hey, what's the best 4-gauge OFC wire? Well, as you know, and as I know, and as a lot of people in the chat here know, not all 4-gauge is the same, unfortunately, right? It's supposed to be, but it's just like we talk about amplifiers and ratings and things that get posted that are not, really within the limits of reality. you have to be careful if something is way cheaper than it says. This is one of the things you really don't want to cheap out on. You want to go with a known name brand that creates OFC wire. That way you're assured that you're going to get really not only quality wire, but you're going to get the true gauge, and you're not going to buy 4 gauge and get 8 gauge in reality. And same thing with speaker. I just bought some speaker wire off Amazon. It's OFC 16 gauge. I get it in, it's 18 gauge. There is no way it's 16. So just remember that when you're comparing prices and you're trying to save a little bit, just remember sometimes it's better to spend a little more to get what you know is the real thing.
And that's very true, and thank you for pointing that out. It is not uncommon if price is your only motivating factor and you go for the least common denominator. It can have 16 gauge printed on the jacket, or it could have 18 gauge printed on the jacket, or it could have 4 gauge printed on the jacket. And when you get the wire and you look at the end of it, you're like, that might be 4 gauge if I measured the outside installation, but it's like looking in the middle, like, where's the beef? The wire is way smaller than what it should be. And unfortunately, that happens. And that's kind of where the term full spec or American wire gauge, AWG, comes into play. If you say it's full spec or you say American wire gauge, it darn well better meet the diameter of a true American wire gauge or full spec wire, because if it doesn't, that's a bad, I don't want to be in that place as a manufacturer. I wouldn't want to state that it is and it isn't, because that's bad. And you'll see in a lot of those cases, they kind of dance around. They use the word gauge. They don't say AWG or they don't say full spec. They just say gauge. Well, what's gauge? I mean, we think we know, when we say 4 gauge, we know what 4 gauge is, but we're actually referring to 4 gauge AWG full spec standard. Well, 4GA, I don't know, I guess that could be 4 Georges. I don't know. Maybe that's how they measure their wire.
Yeah, it's just something to be careful with, if you guys are shopping. That's why, in a lot of cases, some of the name brands like Kickers and some of the others are going to be more expensive, because you're getting really what you're paying for. In other cases, you're not getting what you're paying for.
Exactly. So with that said, I'm watching the clock. I'm looking down here. Unfortunately, I got to do that job. It is about 10 after 8. That means you've got about 20 minutes to enter the contest. That's 20 minutes for the end of the contest for tonight. That's kicker.fun/full-spec2. So if you haven't entered tonight's contest, go hit that. Ernie's going to run anywhere up to 90 seconds of fill material right now. We're going to leave, probably Derrick, you'll probably go in the background with me. I got to grab my laptop. Tim's got to grab a camera, and we are moving over to the lab. So we will see you in just under 90 seconds.
Some bad so hands on the wheel, got a sexy touch. It's enough to make me and my Chevy blush. So long, take it all off of that highway. Turn me on, not let you drive late. You can take it fast as you want to. Girl, dirty looks damn good on you. Start me up, Stones on the radio. Girl, I love it when you let go. Don't waste your way in the wrong way. Get off on some 4x4 play.
Kicker bullfrogs are waterproof, dirt-proof, and drop-proof. Feeling froggy? Hop online to kicker.com and see the entire family of Bullfrog products, or visit your nearest Kicker retailer to get yours today.
Live on the mic, we're back. Hello everyone. As you can see, maybe you didn't see, but if you were here at the previous show, this is one of our labs here at Stillwater Designs. This is actually where Wade does a lot of product testing and verification, QA, QC, every day throughout the week to make sure our products are meeting standard. So we're actually set up here in the lab, as you can see, and on the wall, I'm gonna hope Tim can roll over there with the camera and get us a shot. You see there's 3 plugs on the wall. Now last week, or 2 weeks ago when we were in here for testing, we actually used Wade's Astron stack that was over on the side. We had about 350 amps of current that was at our disposal. Those 3 plugs you see there are 240 volt plugs each, and then right underneath that you'll see it plugged in. Those are 3 power supplies that we're going to go harken back to the old Warhorse days. And those power supplies we actually had specially built for us so that we could have enough current in-house to actually test the original Warhorse amplifier. And those amplifiers are capable of 300 amps-ish, probably a little bit more than that each. So we're going to be able to turn all 3 of those on. That'll give us 900 plus amps on tap. And then to the side there, we've got a couple of kinetic batteries on tap as well. So we have plenty of power, plenty of current here. We can run a whole lot more amplifier than we've got set up here on the test bench. And hopefully, as you can see, pan down a little bit there, showed the resistor load. On the show we did the first one, I think some people saw this sitting under the bench and thought it was an amplifier. This is actually load banks. These are the fixed resistors that we use to test amplifiers with. And this is a special load bank. It's actually on a rolling cart, so we can take it from lab to lab. And with the knife switches that are on top, we can set this up for any type of impedance that we want to have. And right now we've got it set up into 2 ohm operation mode. So this is taking the place of what a speaker would be if this amplifier was hooked up to it. So we don't want a speaker making a bunch of noise. We're just going to play into a fixed load, and that's what this is 2 ohm, very large fixed resistor banks. And that is up here, and that's connected to, sorry, I'm looking at what I'm doing, not the camera, but we've got 2 KXA 2400 amplifiers. And the way we've set this up, because we want to stress 1/0 wire, what we've got is over here coming off of the power supplies, we have a huge Anderson connector. This is so we can plug and unplug the different wire that we're doing. We come off that Anderson connector into ours. We're going through 20 feet of power and ground, and then we're coming up here to the table, and we've got 2 distribution blocks. The power goes into one, the ground goes into the other, and then it splits out of those with 4 2-foot sections of 100% 1/0 KICKER OFC wire. So out of the distribution block to each amplifier is 2 feet of 1/0 pure copper wire. So the test that you'll see is we have an amp meter set up here, and we have a voltmeter. So we're going to look at amperage and voltage coming up to the distribution blocks, and we're actually feeding 2 KXA 2400 watt amplifiers off of 1 strand of 1/0 wire. Now I will preface this with, no, this is not something you should ever do in your own installation in your own car. If you had a KXA 2400 watt amplifier or an amplifier of equivalent size, you should be feeding that single amplifier with a single strand of 1/0 wire. You should not be doing this at all. But this is how we can stress test the wire, and we can show you the capabilities, the full capabilities of copper versus a CCA wire. So Derrick, do you have any questions on that? I mean, obviously you're in the feed there. I see you're down the bottom box.
Yeah, no, this looks good, Kip. Been in that room before. A very impressive power supply set up there. I'm really jealous, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to do here.
I'm excited to see it happen too. Now, I will say, like we said over in the studio, we might smoke an amplifier. And if we do, folks, we're just going to have to move on down the highway and we'll get it repaired, and we'll do this testing again, because this is a very hard test on an amplifier. Just keep that in mind. Now, I do have my phone here. I brought it along with me because what I'm going to use it for is I'm going to use the stopwatch in it, because I do want to keep the test at about 3 minutes, so we got a consistent test. So I've got my stopwatch phone here that I'm going to be using for testing. We have the amplifier set up. You know what we've got for power. We have the meter set up so we can look at current and we can look at voltage. And then we have 2 SMD amplifier. These are the AMM1 meters that will measure wattage output of the amplifier. The reason there's 2 is we have 2 amplifiers, and you'll be able to see right on here the power output of both amplifiers as we ramp up. And then we have a tone generator right here, and this is playing a 50 hertz tone, and it's feeding it into the input of both amplifiers. So I think I've got everything covered here as far as what we've got set up for testing. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to walk around there and I'm going to fire up the power supplies and bring the batteries online. And the first one we've got set up here is we've got the 20-foot power ground of the KICKER 1/0 cable that we're going to test first. And then, so I'll turn the amplifiers on, I'll turn the power supplies on, I'll come back around here, the amplifiers will turn on when the power supply comes on, and then I'll start ramping up the tone generator, and we'll let this test run. And what we're going to look at is power output, we can see current draw, and then we also have our trusty measurement device here. This is one of those handheld infrared contactless readers, and so we can measure temperature of the amplifier, and more importantly, we can look at temperature of the cable. So does this look Big D approved?
I approve. Only thing we're missing is the FLIR, but we'll get that for next time.
You know what's funny about that? They have a FLIR up in the lab, and I should have borrowed it, and I didn't. So I apologize for that.
Again, we got to leave them a little bit for next time, Kip. Can't give them everything this time, right?
Okay, I'm with you on that. But obviously the stuff that you do with your FLIR, I think is pretty impressive, showing all that different temperature and where things get hot and where they don't. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so power supplies are on. Batteries are online. You should see the amplifiers powered up. Power. Oh, I'm not plugged in. Where am I plugged in? Okay, I'm plugged in. For some reason I'm not getting a reading here. Let me see. Oh, it's because it's on AC. Duh. That's why. There we go. Okay, so got to make sure you put the fluke in the right position. So I'm off camera here, and hopefully you guys can see. So we've got, right now, if you look at this meter right here at the far left, this fluke, the way this works, this is a clamp probe that's on here, and it reads into here. So that means it's pulling 3 amps of current right now. And so you'll be able to see the actual current draw through the wire. It'll count up here on this display. This is the voltage coming in. This is the power output of each amplifier, and I'm going to start ramping up the signal. So here we go.
Kip, let me know when you want me to start the stopwatch, because I'll start mine too.
Are you okay? Good. I'm ramping up power now, so I'm going to go ahead and start mine. The meter's turned off. Let me turn them back on. Unfortunately, hold on a second. Okay, real-time power. There we go. So as you can see right now, there's 536 watts coming out of the KXA 2400 on the left, and there's 532 watts coming out of the KXA on the right. So we're pretty close there as far as having these gain match. That's pretty good. So I'm going to start ramping up. Okay, there's 2,389 watts out of the one on the left, 2,433. I'm going to go up a little bit more.
That's that squeaky sound I was talking about.
There you go. Okay, so 24. Okay, there's clip. So I'm going to back it down just a little bit and leave it there. So we've got 2,400, and it's varying between 2,390, 2,427. Of course, it's going to bounce around. On the amp on the left, we got 2,460, 2,497 bouncing around the right. So hopefully you can see the test running. I know we got a little slow start there, so my stopwatch is not completely accurate. We'll give it another 30 seconds, but I'm at 1:20 on that test. And if you can see, both amplifiers are still made, and we're going to understand, this is going over one piece of 1/aught wire. And if you remember that chart we showed in the room there, we are well beyond the spec, because if you look at current draw right here, we're pulling 512 amps of current through that wire. 512, 513. And so to give you an idea on temperature, we're at, I got 1:44. You may have a little bit less than I do there, Derrick. I'm going to do a temperature test back here. So on the power wire here, I'll show it to the camera, we're at 78 degrees. I don't know if Tim can get that full into view, but the power wire right now, we're at 78 degrees. So really room temperature. I mean, we're not, so there, we're at 80 degrees right now. I'll pull up here a little quick. So right now we're at 80 degrees. We're still 2,500 watts out of the amp on the right, 2,460, 2,470 out of the amp on the left. I've got 227 on my timer. What do you got there, Derrick?
Yeah, I'm right at it. We're right at the same time.
Okay, I'm gonna let it keep going. I do want to do a full 3-minute test here. Okay, so here we're up to 106 as far as temp on the wire. I'm at 106 right now. And we are still making 2,550 watts here. We're making 2,470, 2,480. We're still making full output power from the amplifiers. As far as amplifier temperature, one on the right, we're up to 139 degrees. And I'm just showing that it's really, we're talking about the wire, but I figured you guys would like to see the amplifier. Amplifier on the left, we're at 140 degrees. And we're pulling 533 amps of current. on the amp meter, you can see here, and you'll notice the voltage has dropped down to 12.82. What you're seeing happen right here is as the voltage is dropping because the wire is getting hot. And because the wire is getting hot, the amplifiers, these are semi-regulated amplifiers, they're going to start pulling more current in an effort to keep making that full power. So you notice we started a little over 500 amps. Now we're up to 534 amps because our voltage has dropped to 12.78. We're at 3 minutes and 47 seconds according to my timer. I'm going to come back here and check the wire again. Yes.
Yeah, you're solid 3 minutes, Kip.
Okay. You hear me okay? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying you've got a solid 3 minutes of the amp at full volume.
So I'm going to bring that down now. Yeah, because I'm at 410 on mine. I know we got a slow start, so I'm going to pull that down. Because I do want to give the amplifiers a second to cool here. Maybe we can answer some questions or look at some stuff. But that was definitely a solid 3 minute plus run right there of making full power out of these amplifiers. And I'm going to come around here to the cable. And the cable is, I mean, it's warm. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the cable's warm. So I don't know if you can see that. The cable, I'm at 138.5 degrees on that cable. And the thing you got to keep in mind, let me take another measurement here. There's a reading, another one. I got 148. I've taken readings a couple different spots on the cables to try to get an idea what kind of temperature we're looking at here.
Hey, Kip.
Yes.
Why don't you check the temperature on those load resistors?
Sure.
Good call, Ernie.
That's load resistors right there.
We need a piece of cheese.
We could grill some grilled cheese sandwiches on that pretty good. I don't really want to reach down there and touch it, but I can tell you it's hot. That's 153 on that load resistor. Let me check the other side. 159.4 on the other side. So the point to this test, I guess what we're trying to show is, first off, understand we are well beyond spec here. You should not be running 4,800 watts of power through a single 1-aught CCA or a single 1-aught OFC. It's not designed for that. And any wire, all wire, as you pull current or voltage and current through it, and you start getting to its capacity and go beyond it, the wire starts getting hot. As the wire starts getting hot, it adds more resistance to to whatever's pulling it, whether it's a light bulb or an amplifier pulling current and voltage through that wire, and you just get into this cycle where you keep pulling more, the wire gets hotter, it takes more to pull through that, and that's how you see the voltage drop, you see the current climb, and you see that with our amplifiers, because these are loosely regulated amplifiers, they do whatever they can to just try to make power. And so that's what you're seeing going on here. So we are way out of spec, but the fact is we ran 2 of these amplifiers for a solid 3 minutes. I mean, according to my stopwatch, I know we got a little slow start there, but I got 4 minutes and 24 seconds on mine. So I'm going to say a good solid 4 minutes we got in there on full power. And the 1-aught copper wire did it. Would you want to do this in a real-world application? Absolutely not. But we're showing you that there's a lot of headroom and there's a lot of capability in 1-aught wire. So 1-aught wire is perfectly fine for running a single one of these amplifiers. Now, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to start, I'm going to have to shut this down, turn off the power, and I'm going to disconnect the cables and I'm going to switch this over to the 1-aught CCA. So if you've got anything to add, Derrick, feel free to interject anything you want right here.
Well, there you have it. I'm impressed once again with the amplifiers running full volume for 4 minutes. And Kip being able to do this live is impressive as well. It's easy to go back and edit things and make things better after the fact. But yeah, I mean, that's just showing you what faith they have in their product, that they'll actually continue to put out the power for 4 minutes solid. And you know, Kip, with that particular test, it's such an extreme test that people, when they're listening to music, I mean, that's like running your system at full volume for what, 2 or 3 days solid? That's about an equivalent test of what you just did?
Yeah, I mean, it would be quite a long time. What we do, and we talked about this on your 12-volt talk episode show, is we do this full power test on our amplifiers, and then they have to go through a 24-hour durability test back on the test bench that we showed you. Maybe on a future show, we'll go back and actually show that again, although it's in a couple of the tour videos that you and Dean have done. But those amplifiers go back there, and they have to run from cold. So an amplifier is cold with no temperature on it. It has to go from start and run at a 10 dB overlap from full output. Now, that can be a tricky thing to answer because different amplifiers have different output capability and different gain stages, but basically 10 dB of overlap is going to equate to somewhere between 20 and 40% THD. So we're basically running this amplifier completely into garbage land, and that amplifier has to run there for a solid 45 minutes before its first thermal. And that's what our protection circuits are designed to do. I mean, our goal is that it's going to run for a minimum of 45 minutes before thermal kicks in, and then when thermal kicks in, it turns the amplifier off, the temperature has to roll back, and then when the temperature rolls back, and I think it's 10 degrees, once the temperature falls back 10 degrees from thermal, it'll let the amplifier come back on. And the now, from once it reaches that temperature, it doesn't mean it's going to run another 45 minutes, but it has to run for a minimum of 45 minutes the first time, and then it has to run for 24 hours cooking itself on, off, on, off, on, off. So it has to pass both those tests, the first 45 minutes and then cook itself for 24 hours for it to pass our design standards. So we think we have some pretty tough standards that go by.
I would agree with that. I'm going to look at some of the comments here and see if anybody has any.
Yeah, please do.
Questions. Yeah, Gasman3, learn something new every show, which is agreed. I learn something new every show as well.
You know, what's cool about this is we really, you know, all of us work for Kicker. So yeah, are we Kicker fanatics? Yeah, every single one of us here are Kicker fanatics or we wouldn't be here. But we're also audio enthusiasts. And so what we hope is that this isn't just an infomercial for our product. We really want to talk about the science behind wire, the science behind speakers, the science behind amplifiers, you know, talk about all that stuff. And then where we can show that we feel we make a great product, yeah, we're going to take that opportunity. We're going to toot our own horn. Of course we are. But understand, this test we're showing you, you could put any brand of amplifier and place these kickers you want and you're going to get the same results. As long as they make 2,400 watts of power, you're going to get these same results. So it's not just about the brand of amps, it's about the science of the wires what we're talking about. So keep that in mind.
As long as they can do it for 3 minutes, solid.
True.
I'm just saying.
True.
We don't know about that.
So hopefully Tim's been watching this on the camera. You can see. So what I did is I disconnected the 1/0 copper and set it off to the side, and of course it uses that big blue Anderson connector. I've plugged in another Anderson connector that's connected to this CCA wire, and so now I'm just going to, all I'm doing is swapping out the copper from the blocks for CCA in the blocks. And I know this is probably boring to watch, but we really wanted to do all this live because, and I'm glad you said what you said, Derrick, is we're not hiding stuff here. There's no hokey pokey. If an amp goes up in smoke or something happens, we want everyone to see all this stuff happening live. We're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, and we're sincere about that.
Hey, Kip, how light is that CCA compared to the OFC?
I could pick up this roll of CCA and probably throw it to the moon compared to the copper. It's extremely light. I don't want to go out on a limb and give an exact measurement, but I would guess, speculate, just picking it up, this is anywhere from 1/3 to 1/4 the weight of the copper wire that it's connected. It's extremely light, extremely light.
Yeah, and I think Rob gave that example before, that a lot of cases, the OFC wire, which is 10, can actually look like CCA. So some people can think that they're actually getting the wrong kind of wire, but the way to know is the weight, for sure. If you weigh it or if you just pick it up, you can tell the copper wire is much heavier than the CCA.
You know, and the opposite of that kind of happens for us, Derrick, which is ironic, is our 100% copper, all of our wire is tin plated and has been from other than our value kits. Our value kits are not tin plated, but if you get into our PK kits or you get into our marine kits, we use all tin plated copper, and the reason we do that is for corrosion resistance. Whether it's under the hood of a car or in a marine environment, freshwater or saltwater, tin plated copper is a necessity on saltwater marine. I mean, if you don't use tin plated copper, it will eat itself up from the saltwater, that environment. So all of our wire is extremely durable under the hood if you look at the PK or the marine kits because it's that tin plated copper. So when people look at the outside of ours, they say, oh, that's aluminum. I'm like, no. Look, cut the end and look at the end. It's copper, and then it's got a very thin tin plating over it for corrosion resistance.
Kip, I see some questions about the KXA 2400. People are asking if they're coming back. Are we having some stock issues on the 2400s?
Here's what I think: we're far enough along that I can kind of give you that patented Kip wink, and I can say this: the KXA amplifiers are end of life. And there was supposed to be a new line of amplifiers to take the place of the KX amplifiers at the beginning of the year. And I'm not making excuses, I'm just stating reality, and trust me, we do everything we can to work through this, but the last 12 to 18 months with the pandemic, the slowdown in manufacturing, chip plants that have literally caught on fire and burned to the ground, container ships coming across the ocean that have literally lost thousands of containers into the bottom of the ocean, those are all realities as a manufacturer we're dealing with. So the replacement amplifiers for the KX are just behind, but they will be coming. And if you like KX, you're going to love what's coming to replace it. They are, and when we're ready, we're just a little too far out to do it. But when we're ready to let the cat out of the bag, we will do a unmasked live event, and we'll probably do it on a Tuesday, or we may pick another day of the week. But we will do an event where we're going to show everyone those and some other cool new products that would be coming that we would have normally showed at CES. But of course, that show was canceled, and it's just everything is just slowed down. It's taken us longer to get things done, but we're working as fast as we can. So unfortunately, these are end-of-life amplifiers. They're great amplifiers. I mean, if you can find one, I'd buy it and use it. They're great amps. But yes, there's a replacement coming, and we'll talk about it on the show when we can.
See, once again, we learned something together here, because I didn't know that. So that's why I like being involved in these, because I can be just like you guys in the audience, but I'm actually here in person. Have to see my ugly bald head. Sorry about that.
No, hopefully come tomorrow. I don't find a pink slip on my desk because I let that little bit of information out. But you guys are tuning into the show. We kind of feel like you're special guests, and so I feel comfortable enough. I know where we're at in the project development that I can let you know these are end of life, and yes, there's a replacement coming, and they're going to be awesome.
Yeah, somebody mentioned already, anyway, in Crutchfield, it says that it's a discontinued item, so I think it's already kind of well known.
Yes. So it just, trust me, we feel bad as a brand. We feel bad for our dealers and distributors because we don't have the replacement ready, but we are doing everything we can to get it there. And without making an excuse, because I don't want it to sound that way at all, these a lot of people don't know this, is the KX amplifiers, these actually have a DSP in them. So when you look at a KX amplifier, even though you see all these knobs on the front that you can turn and switches you can set for the controls, what you're doing here, you're simply talking to a computer that tells the DSP what to do. So it's analog convenience, but DSP precision. So these have a DSP in them. So everything, the crossover point, the gain control, all that stuff is done in a DSP. The new ones are going to do the same thing, and even some more cool stuff that I can't talk about yet. But there was literally a chip manufacturer that makes DSPs and microcontrollers and things. And if you want to see something interesting, go look at why Ford has over 10,000 trucks parked over at the Kentucky Speedway. It's because Ford can't even get the microprocessors and DSPs and chips they need to build the computers to go into these trucks to finish them, to make them sellable. So it's a global issue. It's not just for car audio, it's everything. And so that's really one of the reasons why we're having such a big holdup is these new amplifiers use that chip. But we were able to source some, and so when they come, you're going to love them.
Exciting.
It is exciting. They are going to, and they, you know how you are about VU meters, Derek?
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell you straight up, there's no VU meters.
Oh, well. Hey, that's version 3. You know, we can always kind of want it.
Cats in the bag.
Do what?
Leave some of the cats in the bag.
There you go.
I can't, it's VU meter. I mean, I can talk about VU meters with Derek. It's his thing.
You know, I've got to talk to Tony. The only thing I don't like about the AMM1 is it doesn't stay on more than, 90 seconds, I think, and it shuts off if it's not doing anything. And that's to preserve the battery because it eats batteries for lunch.
It does. It does. I'll tell you what, Steve Mead, I reached out to him, and he helped me on these meters. And it's called a Tenergy is the brand, but it's a 9-volt nickel metal hydride rechargeable. And I get pretty good battery life out of those as opposed to any alkaline battery you can get. So I've been using those in these, and I do get more life out of them than an alkaline. Okay, so here's where we're at. turn this off, get this going. So here's our amp meter. Here's our voltage. We've got our clamp on. We got our 2 SMD meters up ready to read power. So are you ready to start your timer?
I'm ready. You tell me when.
Okay, I'm going to start climbing power now. So go. Okay, we're at 1,300 watts on the left, 1,300 watts on the right. Okay, I don't know if you just noticed, but both amplifiers just shut off. Did you see it?
Yep, sure did.
Okay, I'm gonna turn them down a little bit so we can get there, so they'll stay on. So I'm at 1,850 watts on the left. I'm at 1,850-ish watts. It's bouncing back and forth like they do. I'm at 13 volts, and you can see I'm pulling 365 amps of current. So you noticed over the 1-aught copper, we were able to pull 530 plus amps of current through it. It powered the amplifiers, and yes, it was getting warm, but it let both amplifiers make full power. I'm here. I'm going to see if I can go up one more click. Okay, so there I'm at 1,900 on the right. I'm at almost 2,000, 1,980. There's 2,000. There's 19 some change, so I'm at 2,000 watts per amplifier. I'm drawing 429 amps through the wire. I'm down to 12.3 volts, and I'm just going to go ahead, just out of curiosity, I'm going to take a reading back here. Okay, it's getting warm. I'll see if I can get any more power out of the amplifiers. Shuts right off, so I'm gonna back it down one click. Let them kick back over.
Do those come out of protection automatically, Kip, or do you have to power cycle
Yes.
them?
They should come out of protection automatically, unless the only time on these is it is possible on the KX line, because it's a DSP chip, is sometimes you do have to remove power and bring them back if they're into a funky shutdown protection mode, which they might be right now. That's why I'm looking here. I'm just going to roll see if they'll come back. Okay, there we go. I got them to come back when I remove signal completely. So
I think the one on the left is still in protect. Oh, there it goes.
it started pulling so much current, it actually put one of my power supplies into protect out of the power supply. So I'm going to reset it. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're back. So this funky stuff you see happening, you notice it didn't happen when we were using copper. Which kind of ties back to the same thing we talked about on the show previously, is a lot of times when we have people call in and speak to our amp repair department or have a warranty issue on their amplifier, there's the majority of the times we chase it down, it's a wire issue, it's a power supply issue, because a lot of people are running CCA wire. And the worst part is, they're like, okay, well, yeah, you said I need 1-aught, but I can use 4-gauge, and I can get 4-gauge CCA, and man, I'll be great. And so you're literally starving the amplifier for current and putting it into situations where it shuts down. So now that I got the power supplies back, I'll ramp this back up. So here we are, I'll get up to okay. I'm at 2,000 watts in amplifier.
Yeah, I started mine over, Kip.
Oh, thank you, yes. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that, man. So and I'm going to try that. I know you may not be able to see it on this scope I'm using, but I'm at 2.6. That's how much voltage I'm driving to the input of the amplifiers. And if I go to 2.7, they'll shut off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over here and see if I can bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to go to 2.61. There's 2.65. And you can see we're down to 11. We're already 11.8 volts. I mean, we're pulling 472 amps of current through the wire, and we're down to 11.8 volts. Both amplifiers are making right at 2,060 watts. And the power supplies just went into protection. So I'm going to ramp this down again. Reset the power supplies.
So I guess what we're saying here is it's difficult to do a comparison testing because we're not able to get the same amount of power or the amount of current through the CCA wire.
Correct, but I'm gonna give it my best effort here. We're gonna do it again. So we're up and running. I'm gonna run this up. Go back up to 2.6, and there, click, just shut. I'm gonna turn down a little bit. Okay, hit my start. So we haven't even been able to get a full 3-minute run out of these amplifiers at full power, much less anything else.
Do me a favor, press the voltage back down and then back up and watch the 2 outdated wires in front of your power supplies.
Over there?
Yes.
Okay, here. Can you see that? Are you on it?
Yep.
All right, so what Tim wants you to see there, guys, is I've actually got the input to the amplifiers turned down. Watch as I ramp this back up. Look at what happens to those power wires. Are you ready? You see them moving? See them spread apart and they're moving?
Poltergeist.
And it's getting hot now.
I think Kip, I think y'all's internet is probably breaking up just a little bit. Your quality has dropped a little bit on the camera. We can still see it, but it's a little bit pixelated.
Okay, hopefully it picks back up here. We did notice earlier in the show that we were getting poor connection quality to StreamYard. But here, I mean, we're not making full power, and right now we're at 132 degrees on the wire. So hopefully you can see that on the temperature meter there. It is running. We're making, I got to turn this one back on. Unfortunately, it timed out. So on the amp on the left, we're making 1997. It timed out too. I need to turn it back on. Yeah, that is the one thing. It's funny you mentioned that. I'd love to talk to Steve about getting some kind of a hold function on these so they will just stay in a mode. And then, if the battery goes dead, at least you're responsible for that. Okay, real-time power, real-time power.
Somebody in the comments said that the CCA is connecting to the Wi-Fi also.
We're powering the Wi-Fi over CCA. That's awesome. Okay, so to give you an idea, here's where we're at temperature-wise on that wire. We're up to 160 degrees. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, we're making... We're making 2,000 watts on the left, and the amplifier on the right has actually went into protect. So it got current starved and probably shut down. I'm gonna turn it down one more time. See, that test ran, on my stopwatch, I got up to 2 minutes and 40 seconds there. I don't know if you had something run on your end.
Yeah, I'm up to 350 now, so.
Okay, so 350. So, here's where we're at. 171 degrees.
So
I'll try to get another reading.
I think
Go ahead, Derrick.
The lesson here is kind of like, when you're shopping for an amplifier and you purchase an amplifier, you've got to save some of your funds to make sure you get proper wiring. Because you don't want to spend all of your money on the amp and then not have any money to pay for your wire, because you see what happens here. You're not going to get the power out of it, and you're going to have all kind of issues with it. So it's difficult because everybody wants the shiny stuff, the amps, the speakers. The wiring and the accessories is never really a fun thing to have to purchase, but it's one of the necessities. It's kind of like buying some really fancy rims and then getting the off-brand tires and your car rides really bad. You kind of have to make sure you account for the things that you really need.
Right. And, obviously, we haven't been pulling current over this wire for a few minutes, so it's starting to cool down, but it's still at 166. I hit it again, but there's 100. We're not even pulling current through it, and it's starting to cool, but we're at 163. Now, I guess the good part is aluminum does cool pretty quick. I mean, aluminum is a great transfer of heat. I mean, it'll cool down pretty quick, but when you're running amplifiers, I think the key is you're trying to get all the current you can to the amplifiers and get your amplifiers to make power for you. And so that's hopefully, well, let's see if I can get these kick over one more time. Yeah, the amp on the right, we're still, it's in thermal protect right now, but yeah, and it's hot. So I'm pretty sure the amplifier's like, I'm done. I want to have a break.
What's the temp on the amp, Kip?
Let me find the high point. Okay, so there's the outputs. Down here's power supply. The amplifier's at 100, well, I had a 174, it just dropped 173.8. So the amplifier is 173.8 degrees on the outer shell, which means it's probably well over 200 on the inside where the thermistor is that, you know, tracks the temperature and tells the DSP whether to turn it on or turn it off. So I don't know if we'll get, I'm checking the time here. Okay, we got 10 minutes left before we get to 9. So basically, I don't know that we're going to get this amplifier to cool down in time to run one more test, but as you can see, the whole premise of this test is we are stressing the wire, but stressing the wire is what lets you see the limitations of the wire. So in this scenario here, we were pulling 4,800 or making 4,800 watts of power, and you could see how much voltage and current we were pulling through the wire. And with the 100% copper, we were able to get both these amplifiers to full power output and make full power for well over 3 minutes. When we move over to the CCA wire, you can see there were several hiccups in trying to just get them up to making power. And then once it got running, you see we couldn't get the amplifiers over 2,000 watts. I mean, that was the maximum we could get out of those amps over that that CCA wire. And it got to the point that it was getting hot. Now, we could probably, hey, the amplifier came back. There it is. It just came out of thermal. We'd probably have to let it sit for another, before I'd want to run it like I just ran, I'd want to let it sit for a minute. But as you can see, well, okay, perfect. So as you can see, the CCA wire is not capable of doing the same thing as the 100% oxygen-free copper wire is. I would never, ever, ever in a million years even remotely suggest that you run 2 of these amplifiers off a single run of 1/0 in either case, whether it was pure copper or CCA. I would never recommend it. But this was a stress test scenario so that you could see the limitations of the wire. And as you can see, the amp got to thermal, so we had to wait for it. But you're seeing the copper wire got to 130. Yeah, I can kill those. The copper wire got to about $1.30. Timmy's telling me to turn off the power supply so it's quieter in here. But you can see on the copper, we made full power. Never had any issue with the drop. It was pulling all the current it needed. Matter of fact, it started pulling about 30 amps extra current as the voltage was dropping and made full power. And when we moved to the CCA, it couldn't even pull the same amount of current. It got extremely hot. It got up to 100, almost a 180. There's one measurement I took there was like a 179. So it was getting very hot. So this is simply the limitation in the wire. Does this mean you shouldn't or couldn't run CCA? No, I'm not saying that at all. But if you want to run one run of wire within the safe tolerances of what charts and graphs will tell you, you're always going to be better off to run pure copper. In this scenario here, we would see a totally different result if we ran 2 runs of CCA. So basically what we're saying is you have to use at least 2 runs of the CCA to meet the capability of 1 run of the 100% copper. And even 2 runs, I think over time you would see that it wouldn't be as quick of a test to show this because it's got more surface area, more radiating area, more circular area to pull the current through with 2 runs of wire versus 1. So at the end of the day, are you really saving money? Or if you go with CCA over copper, when you look at what the performance hit you take, we certainly don't think so, and that's why we don't recommend it. But the flip side of this equation is we're not here telling you that CCA or aluminum is a bad material. It has its place in all sorts of things as long as you use it and it's designed within its parameters. But as far as a power wire, gauge for gauge being the same capability, absolutely not. So.
Can you guys put back up those comments? The one from El Fuego was a really good one. I want to read it. I know Kip can't see it because, so El Fuego says, Kicker Unmasked dropping knowledge again with transparent testing like no other manufacturer. So I just think that was a good one and needs to be stated again.
I certainly appreciate that, El Fuego. Thank you for saying that. It's ironically, you know, the conversation that came about from the amplifiers under test was not the conversation we wanted to have, although Derrick chimed right in on it and it opened up a whole other conversation path we could have about amplifier design, but we just had to have amplifiers in order to pull that much current to create the testing we're doing. So it was kind of a win-win for us showing both those scenarios. But we want to make sure that you guys out there understand, because I can't tell you how many guys and I don't mean today, I'm talking about a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where I'm in the comment section just as Kip Litzy on my off time, and it's in, whether it was in the Kicker feed or another manufacturer, and guys are out there and they're championing CCA wire over copper and saying it's no different, it's you're wasting your money, you're this, that, and there, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. If you want to use CCA, just know what you're getting into, know the limitations, know that, well, really to meet size for size, I'm going to have to run 2 runs of this to meet the capability of 1 run of the copper. And do I really want to have to run 2 wires and deal with a distribution block or a port multiplier to get both those in my amplifier when I could run 1 run of the properly sized copper and get the job done right, and it's safer? And I'm not using this as a scare tactic, guys, but I have personally seen and witnessed, Ernie Ficklin has personally seen and witnessed, I've seen cars that catch on fire and burn to the ground because the wire got so hot it melted the insulation, the wire got through to chassis ground, and the ones we've seen were, they were victims of team no fuse. And if you don't have a fuse that can blow, then that 1-aught becomes a fusible link, which someone kind of mentioned earlier in the show. And it takes a while for a 1-aught fusible link to go. And it will catch a car on fire and can burn it to the ground. So there is a safety issue to this. And we want you to be aware of that. We want you to get full performance out of your amplifier. We don't want you to have problems. And we just want you to come into this realistically. Is CCA wire, as power wire to your amplifiers, as good gauge for gauge as copper? Nope. And that's what we're trying to show you here. We just want you to make an educated decision.
I think it was a great demo, Kip, and I think it showed off exactly what you were trying to show.
I hope it did. I was wanting to get the wire even hotter, but the amplifiers, I mean, between all that testing, we ran these amplifiers for almost 9 minutes full tilt, Boogie. So I'm proud of them that it went that long before the one went into thermal. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really neat,
so
too,
the
way
said,
it comes out of thermal, too, Kip, because typically when an amp goes into protect, you have to power cycle, at least in my testing that I've done, you actually have to power cycle it to get it out of protect. So the fact that those will automatically come out of protection, that's another benefit that I don't know that a lot of us knew about.
Yeah, these amplifiers will, and if you notice, I did pull the remote lead to try to power cycle the DSP, and I did, and this one still didn't come on because it was so hot, and as we were talking doing the show, the red light finally just came on its own. It's because it had reached a temperature where it was safe to turn back on. And that's part of the 24-hour stress test that we put all of our amplifiers through, is that they have to make full power with music. Now, we're not talking sine wave here when we do this test out here, guys. Understand, we're talking music, bass heavy music. We run them with a 10 dB overlap, so we go to full output, add 10 dB of overlap. That can be anywhere from 20 to 40% THD depending on the amplifier design, and it has to run for 45 minutes at that with music before it goes into its first thermal protect, and then it has to go for another 23 hours and 15 minutes of cycling itself on and off. I'm getting too hot, shut off, cool down, turn back on, I play, get too hot, shut off. And that's how we stress test our amplifiers. When people say they have problems with our amps, it's built by man, broke by man, and there could always be an amplifier that's built on Friday at 4 o'clock that's got a problem, and that's why we make a warranty. That's why we cover our products. We have one of the most friendly and outstanding cover almost anything warranty procedures of any manufacturer out there. I think if you talk to anyone who's ever had to deal with Kicker on a warranty issue, they know that we go out of our way to take care of stuff because we know things happen. We also want to make sure that we can track down and find the real problem, which is, like you see in this test, a lot of times our guys back in ER, which is electronic repair, or up on customer service, they'll track down a problematic customer. This might be the second or third time he's reached out to us with an issue, and by golly, we find out it's wire. He's running CCA, or he's not running full spec wire, and he's starving the amplifier for current, and that's what's causing the problems. So it's just, information on the front side sure makes things work better, work longer, and sound better in the long run.
Hey, Kip, just to appease some of the questions in the audience, the speaker wire that you're using 12 gauge OFC, or what size speaker wire are you using coming out of the amp?
That's a good question, and thank you for asking that. We're actually using, it's Kicker 8-gauge power wire is what we're using. So this is 8-gauge coming out of the amplifier. And these are 8-gauge speaker wires, are probably right at about 36 to 40 inches long. If I had to give you my best guess, they're in that range. They're actually test leads that Wade uses over on his bench, so they're not designed to be super long. It's just so he can work on his workbench and get to what he needs to do. But they are 8-gauge, and as you can see, we're coming straight out of the amplifier. They're terminated with Anderson red connectors, and then that's what plugs into the load bank here. And this load bank is capable of, it'll do probably 20,000 watts intermittent, 10,000 watts continuous. That's what this load bank is set up for, to do that kind of big testing.
Sounds good. And I did see another question when somebody was talking about speaker wire size. They're saying 8-gauge CCA versus 8-gauge OFC for speaker wire. What do you feel about that?
Currents, voltage is voltage. Here's the thing about it that kind of will kind of freak people out a little bit is this wire coming out of this amplifier that's going to your speaker, there's no music coming out of this wire. There's not music on the wire. All there is coming out of this wire is varying voltages at varying frequencies. If you were to look and you had a speaker, I know people do, I see like plug into your wall outlet at home, that is 60 hertz. 60 hertz coming out of your wall outlet is no different than playing 60 hertz test tone off of a CD or your phone or whatever, and play it through your radio and play it through your speakers. All that comes out of here is voltage at various voltages at various frequencies. So it's power. It's AC coming out of there. Over here, we're drawing DC. On this side, we're actually, this is AC, but the same rules still apply. If you exceed the capability of the wire, it's going to start getting hot. If it starts getting hot, the resistance goes up. As the resistance goes up, you lose voltage going to your speaker, which means you lose output. And it's just the same vicious cycle you get into. So it doesn't matter if it's on the input side of an amplifier or the output side. What we're showing here is we're showing the differences between metallurgy. We're simply talking, this is copper and this is aluminum. And it's really copper covered aluminum, but there's so little copper over the aluminum, it's really aluminum. And we're just saying, well, what's the difference between these metallurgies? What are we looking at here? And those differences are going to exist whether you're drawing the current into the amp or sending it out to your speakers. So, your choice.
So another comment from the chat here says, common argument I hear around the campfire, does size matter on your speaker wire? And I think that goes with the chart that you showed before, right? And that's something everybody needs to take into account.
The thing to keep in mind is all these charts that you read are all based on the realities of the science of the wire. And this wire has so much resistance per foot because it's designed of a certain material that has so much resistance per foot. And it's that resistance per foot that eventually turns into the voltage drop that you see at the end of the wire. So that chart, and Ernie, thank you for putting that up. So if you look at that chart, 16 gauge wire in this chart, you can see 16 gauge wire, you will have a drop. You're going to get an 11% drop in power at the end of that wire. So starting at your amplifier, you got full power. And when you go through 27 feet of 16 gauge speaker wire and hook that to your speaker, you're going to lose 11% of your power due to resistance over the wire, and you're going to, that approximates to about a half a dB drop. So will you hear a half a dB loss? It depends on the person. I think about it, honestly, I'm about a dB. About a dB, I can hear a difference. Anything less than that, I don't know if I'm really hearing a difference or if I'm telling myself I hear a difference. Most people, it's going to be in that 2 to 3 dB range as far as what they can key on. It's like immediately, oh yeah, I hear a difference. So it just depends on how much loss are you willing to put up with in your speaker wire. And then there does come a point where you can say, well, I can put up with that loss, but then how long are you going to run? I mean, you're going to run that speaker wire with signal through it at that loss for 40 minutes, or are you going to run through that wire for 40 hours? Because that loss, heat builds over time. So how long are you going to run that wire? So if you're going to run a whole lot of power through a wire, you need to look at how long am I going to run that power through that wire. Not only is it within the acceptable loss. As long as you're within acceptable loss, like I said in the beginning of the show, when it comes to speaker wire or RCA cables, there's only 3 things that affect how it sounds: capacitance, inductance, and resistance. And the number one that you really need to focus on, because it's the one in real world that you're probably going to run into on a daily basis that's going to be reality, is resistance. And resistance comes from running too small of a gauge of wire for an application. And that chart that Ernie showed,
I think the other thing too about the chart though, Kip, we need to be careful is we're talking 4 ohms. If we're talking 1 ohm, then you're going to have to drop that length way down, right? You have to divide by 4. So if you're talking
you are
69
100%
feet,
correct.
you have to divide by 4. So just remember that. But another quick shout out, Steve Mead is actually in the chat. I think his ears were ringing when we were talking about the AMM1 and it's shutting off. So Steve, if you're listening, we need a hold function so we can keep this AMM1 running continuously. I'll hit up Tony, but just tell him I'm calling.
You know, I'm glad you said that. And this, I'll also, since he's in the feed, this one I'm going to say. The hold function would be great, but put that aside. These are a couple of the most awesome pieces of test equipment that I've had the pleasure of using, and I can't thank you enough for helping us here at Kicker get these into our hands, because this isn't the first or the last time that we're going to use these devices on the show and in other applications in here. And we even have the big full-size black dyno back in the lab. So these are great tools. It's cool for us to have these, and I can tell you they're accurate. I mean, obviously everything we design and build here, we use APs, which are very expensive piece of test gear, but I can tell you, these are right on the money. They're good enough to use. You're definitely, so thank you, Steve. This is a fantastic product and appreciate you helping us out, man. You're a great guy.
Yeah, and for the money,
Shameless plug.
It puts the power in people's hands, right? They can test their own things. So I can't give enough kudos myself either. I love those products, and I'm that way. Hey, if I like your stuff, I'm going to give you kudos. If I don't, then you're going to hear that too. But
exactly. So unless there's some really good questions, I'm going to reach out. I'm asking, basically, I'm reaching this out to JW. Jeremy, are there any other good questions in the feed that you think we need to address, or are there any that you see, Derrick, before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm going to look through real quick and see.
Bromance. I think the bromance was already developing their 25 hertz lights when we shared grits together at breakfast when he visited. I think the bromance started right then and there.
Yep, it's real.
You know, someone else made a comment in here, and that's a good one I'll say, is when you run undersized wire or wire that can't carry the capacity of current you need to your amplifier, it is, if you want to experience yourself, tape your nose shut, tape a straw to your mouth, and I don't mean one of those big gulp where you can suck a Volkswagen through straws. I mean take like a straw from McDonald's or Sonic or something like that, and just tape it to your mouth so you can only breathe through that straw. And if you're just walking around the room or walking on a flat surface or just not doing anything real active, you can get the air you need. Your body will burn that air along with all the calories and you'll get your energy. But man, start running or run up some stairs or try to carry something heavy and you'll immediately find out that you're being restricted. You can't create the energy you need and you shut down really fast because you're restricting the amount of air you can get into your body. And that's someone in the comment section said something very similar to that, and that is 100% on here. If you starve your amplifier or any of your electronics for power and voltage, you are going to eventually cause them to turn off, or long term, you may cause them to have irreparable damage that you send in for repair. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's what we're trying to get the point across here, guys. Is you wire it up right, you wire it up with the good stuff, you're not going to have problems.
It brings back the point that I made earlier. It's never fun to spend money on accessories. Granted, we all know that. We want to buy the most expensive amplifier we can afford, the nicest one and all that, and then everything else is kind of the side,
Here? Okay. That we were going to go back to the studio, but I just got the hand signals from Tim. We're going to wrap it up here in the lab. But you say that, Derrick, and I want to tie into that. The way, and we're actually starting to change the wording that we use here at Kicker, is wire is not an accessory. Wire is a component. You cannot run an amplifier, you cannot connect to a speaker, you cannot connect to a head unit without the right wire connections. And to call it an accessory almost implies it's an add-on like jewelry. Proper wire and connections is not an add-on in like jewelry. It's a component, just like your woofer, just like your speakers, just like your amplifier, just like your head unit, just like your crossovers, your EQs. Proper wire is a component. And you really need to take that in consideration when you're designing your system. And I know what it's like, guys. I wasn't always at the point where, I had a little extra money to go out and buy one. I mean, I had to save and save and save, paycheck after paycheck just to get to the point like, yeah, there's that shiny amp I want. But you got to always remember, put a buffer in there and know that you got to buy the right wire to go along with it. And I think a lot of guys, they get disappointed. They get that first-time buyer's remorse and they start having problems because they buy the right gear that they want, and then they end up hooking it up with inferior sized or inferior capability wire, and they get that, man, is that the best I can do? Oh, it's shutting off. Why is it doing that? They get that buyer's remorse. That's why we're here to tell you this stuff, guys. We don't want you to experience that, and we see it every day on phone calls. And like I said, I'm probably being even a little lean when I say 9 out of 10. Most problems that come in where it's repeated problems like that or random issues, it all boils down to wire, connectivity, the wrong size, voltage drop, things like that, poor ground. Those are really the issues. And as you can see, we're just showing you here that in the wire selection, the amount of voltage drop you can get in one material versus another and what it means into real world performance. So hopefully you guys find it interesting enough that you like the video, you think it's informative, and you come back for more stuff.
It was lots of fun, Kip. I appreciate you having me. I don't know, are you guys going to do the drawing here, or are you going to?
Yeah,
okay.
Why don't you just, since we're here in the lab and it's not Stu, why don't you just hang out here with us and we'll do it together. So
sure.
I moved around here to my laptop so I can see. So third place, obviously tonight's third place winner, you're going to get a set of EB300 earbuds. You're going to get a set of Kicker koozies to keep your favorite beverage nice and crisp and cold. And you're going to get an Unmasked Live t-shirt in gray. That's going to be second place and third place. And then our first place winner, like we said at the beginning of the show, your choice of Kicker wire kit, it's going to be 100% copper. That's the good news. Pick one of those you want. We're going to get you a black Kicker Unmasked Live event t-shirt and a set of koozies for that. I'll say it again at the end, but first off, if you're a winner, reach out to Bill. You can get him at social@kicker.com. He will reach out to you tomorrow as well, so it's a two-way communication street. But what we need from you when we do is we need an actual mailing address, no P.O. box. We cannot ship to a P.O. box. We need to have your shirt size. Please confirm that, because sometimes when you're there clicking the size that you want, you might misclick the wrong one, or you meant to say large and you click medium. So we just want to make sure you get the right size. And last but not least, we do need a phone number to contact you. It doesn't go into any marketing pool. We simply put it on the form and the information to ship your product to you, because no matter who on the end is getting it to you, whether it's FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service, DHL, take your pick, if they can't reach you or find you, they need to be able to contact you to arrange for a delivery or for you to come pick it up at their offices. So we do need that information, but we do promise we aren't going to use your phone number for anything else. I know I say it every time, and I'm going to keep saying it because we want you to know that we're not taking your phone number for marketing purposes. So with that said, Bill, I'm looking at the screen. Tell me who's our third place winner tonight for watching the show. Number 3, we have got Chris A. from West Monroe, Louisiana. Chris A., West Monroe, Louisiana, you are our third place winner tonight. Thank you for tuning into the show. Hopefully you had some fun, got some great knowledge out of this, and you've won a set of EB300s, a pair of those koozies, and a great gray Kicker Unmasked t-shirt. Bill, same prize package going to winner number 2. Who is it? Winner number dos is Arthur R. from Douglas, Georgia. Arthur R., thank you for tuning in and watching the show. Thank you for entering the contest, and hope you enjoy your EB300s. Wear that t-shirt and enjoy those koozies. Send us some pics to socialkicker.com so we can see how you're enjoying those. And last but not least, our number 1 winner for the night, the grand prize. You're going to get the black shirt, you're going to get the koozies, and you're going to get your choice of a wire kit. Bill, please tell me, who's number 1? Number 1, tonight's final winner is Richard B. from Boise, Idaho. Richard B., Boise, Idaho, you're our grand prize winner tonight. Thank you for tuning in and watching the show. That's the 3 winners from tonight's drawing. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. Don't forget, the MTI contest is still going on till the end of the month, the 31st. You've got till then to register for that contest. We'll be giving away the MTI acoustics enclosure, the underseat stage 3, along with Kicker L7 drivers to fit that. So be sure you enter that contest as well. Derrick, as always, man, I'm looking down so I can see you on my computer screen. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know this is kind of Robert's domain when it comes to wire, because everyone calls him Mr. CCA, but I'm glad he was able to go do some family stuff tonight and go do that. And actually having you here was fantastic, because this ties directly into the stuff you do every day, which is amplifier testing, and I think it's great.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kip. As always, Kicker, you guys are great, and these demos you do every week, all this knowledge you're sharing with everybody, it's invaluable. You guys out there, give them some thumbs up, man. This is just great, not because I'm here, but because these guys are doing what they're doing. They're staying after hours. They're doing this stuff after, just to give you guys the information. And I love to be a part of it. So anytime, Kip, you like me, just give me a shout. I'm here with you.
Man, we love having you on the show, man, and thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it more than you know.
Thank you. You guys have a great week.
You too, man. Thank you. So with that said, we want to give a big thank you to Derrick from joining us. You know, Williston Audio Labs, he does some fantastic testing. Be sure you check out his channel. 12 Volt Talk, another great show. Reverse Polarity, Sound Advice. There's some great content out there for you guys to watch. And I know a lot of you guys out there who tuned in, I see you in those feeds as well. It's my pleasure to be the one in front of the camera, to be embarrassed. We got Tim behind the camera. He can do and say anything he wants because I just get to laugh at him. We got Ernie, we got Jeremy, we got Bill back in the studio, and they're giving it their all to make sure we get a good feed out here tonight and give you guys some great content. It's our pleasure to be the ones representing the other 200 plus employees here at Stillwater Designs Kicker in Stillwater, Oklahoma, the heartland of America. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 7:30. We got another great show planned. We hope to see you then. Everyone, have a safe week. We'll see you.